AITA for not following my husband's new religious beliefs? I, 28F, and my husband, 29M, met in college and have been married for 6 years. My husband was raised in a strict evangelical household but broke away from those beliefs around the time we met. We had what I thought was a very happy marriage until my husband's father passed away in early 2021. He received a cancer diagnosis and was gone a few weeks later. My husband was and is, very understandably, completely devastated. He had remained very close to his father, despite no longer following the religious beliefs of his childhood. My husband decided to honor his father's memory by rejoining his church. Unfortunately, it is one of those churches that forbids many things I find fun and relatively harmless in. Classifies them as addictions or tools of Satan. For example, before his father's passing, my husband and I enjoyed having a glass of wine or cocktail now and then, maybe a couple times a week, and also enjoyed weed or edibles, legally, once every month or two. But after joining the church, my husband decided he was an alcoholic and drug addict. He also decided that his occasional porn use, we enjoyed it together to spice things up now and then, was also an addiction. He is now insisting that I am also an addict because I don't want to give all these things up. I tried to meet him halfway. I don't care about weed and am fine never using again, and agreed not to drink at home if my husband truly wanted to have a sober household, but said I would still want to have an occasional drink when out with friends. I will admit I like written erotica, which he never thought was a problem until he became religious. He also threw away my vibrator, saying it was an instrument of the devil. The latest is that my husband's pastor told him video games, all games, not just M-rated ones, are sinful, and now my husband is insisting I have a video game addiction and need treatment. Gaming is a main hobby for me, probably around 8 to 10 hours a week. It's not an addiction in my view, just something I really enjoy. I work full-time, cook, clean, exercise, etc. I'm not neglecting anything else in my life, except respect for my husband's new beliefs, I guess. By gaming, my husband wants me to start going to church with him. He says he will go to couples counseling, but only through his church, not to a secular counselor. I told him that I understand he is grieving and struggling and I want to be kind and supportive, and if it really helps we can keep alcohol and weed out of the house. But I am not going to become an evangelical. Unlike him, I was raised with atheist parents, and am not going to restrict myself to activities he finds acceptable under his religious beliefs. I also asked him to please stop labeling habits he doesn't like as addiction. Of course he now thinks I am an awe for being mean to him while he is grieving. Most of our family members and friends also think I should do what he asks in the name of being supportive. So, AITA? NTA. You don't share his belief, and don't wish to, which should be the end of that discussion. Religious belief, or lack thereof, is intensely personal, and cannot be forced upon anyone. My grandfather was fond of saying, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. I agree that couples counseling is in order, but it must not be through his church. That's an instant and automatic 2-against-1 situation. You need an impartial counselor, and that means a secular counselor. Sadly, you probably need to consider that your marriage may be nearing its end, and prepare yourself for life without him. You didn't mention any children. I hope that's because there aren't any. NTA. Your husband is being unreasonable and unhealthy. He may practice whatever faith he wants. Being married does not obligate you to do the same. If your husband doesn't get back to himself, then sadly I don't know if your marriage will last. I am very sorry. NTA. You've already made far more concessions to him than I feel like you need to. I appreciate he is grieving, but you shouldn't have to change your entire life to be supportive. It sounds like pretty much everything you do for any kind of recreation he's having an issue with. It's your personal time. He should have no control over what you do with it. And I definitely wouldn't do the church couples counseling. I would not trust them to have a neutral, unbiased perspective. This is probably going to sound incredibly rude, and I apologize ahead of time for that. However, your husband has joined something kinda cult-like? I'm not an expert or anything like that, so this is just based off of many hours of true crime podcasts. Either way, I think you were very compromising to him, kicking weed and hooch out of the house. But he was not the same. This is a pickle, to say the least. I certain don't think you're the but I don't know what advice to offer, unfortunately. NTA. Most of our family members and friends also think I should do what he asks in the name of being supportive. Well then, they can join him in going to church and eliminating all the things his church says are sinful. Addictions. Ignore those people. It is really easy for them to say that to you when it doesn't affect them in any way. In the meantime, you are already being very supportive and accommodating. And you are NTA for refusing to abide by your husband's religious beliefs. You are not being mean to him while he is grieving. You have done a lot more than I would be willing to do if my husband suddenly took up with evangelicals. Regardless of the reason, grief is one thing, and being a controlling and domineering partner in the name of religion is something else entirely. That's what he is doing. And you are right to set clear boundaries with him about what you are willing to do. NTA. Grief can change people, and the church is designed to take advantage of people who need or in impressionable stages in life. One of those being loss. Explaining the way they can avoid that grief for the rest of his life. He thinks he's saving you. They've convinced him this is what he has to do to get saved himself and see his father again. How long has this been going on? The question you need to ask yourself is if you are willing to wait for him to hopefully see your side is ever going to walk away again. I'd recommend seeing a therapist yourself to help you sort out your boundaries. Good luck. NTA. Man, this sub sometimes makes me really sad for people. Like, my husband joined a cult and decided we can't have sex for 6 months. I'm not allowed to smoke weed, drink, play video games, or read certain materials. The only couples counseling hell except if from said cult. AITA? Single quote. On what planet is this normal and acceptable to the point where Op has to come to the internet to see if she is the asshole? And her, I hope soon to be former, friends and family are on his side? What the hell? NTA. And that church sounds like a delight. Face with rolling eyes if he doesn't ratchet back on the crazy. It's going to test the marriage. You don't say whether you have any kids. So I'm assuming you don't. Whatever you do, do not have a baby to fix it. That never works and will add to your stress if the marriage ends. NTA. I have to be honest. I would be consulting a divorce attorney. If you have a joint account, I would pull out my money and opening a new bank account in a different bank. Then I would be packing up my belongings and moving out, leaving him my attorney's business card and tell him to have his attorney call my attorney. Your husband has jumped over the cliff and is totally unreasonable. We are living in 2021, not the Middle Ages. He is treating Op in a very controlling manner. NTA. You need to put some strict boundaries now. This is a big red flag behavior. If I were you, I would give an ultimatum: divorce or couple counseling, not through the church. I know this seems extreme, but imagine if you bring children into this mix and how they will be affected. If you don't want to go straight for divorce, tell him that you are taking a break away from him because you don't like how he has changed due to religion. You can't force him not to be religious, and he can't force you to become religious. NTA. If a man was telling his wife that she can't use her phone because it's an addiction, or she can't have any money because she's a shopping addict, then everyone would rightly say that she's being controlled. I don't see how this is any different. Your husband is trying to take away things that you enjoy purely because he believes them to be wrong. That is not right, and it's not the basis for a healthy relationship, and it is certainly not supporting him through his grief. I would suggest marriage counseling, but I don't think one from the church will be helpful in this situation. NTA. Your husband, grieving or not, does not get to tell you that you cannot have a drink out with your friends. Your husband did not have this lifestyle when you married him. You not jumping on board with his new rules does not mean you aren't supporting him. NTA. Sounds like he joined a cult. NTA. He now thinks I am an awe for being mean to him while he is grieving. Apparently he is confusing his ability to grieve with his attempts to control you and everything in your life. He doesn't get a free pass to dictate everything you do because somebody close to him has died. It sounds like he is struggling and needs counseling. But I get the suspicion that any counseling services offered through the church will only make his views more extreme. This is a rough time to have to put your foot down. But you need to put your foot down nonetheless. His rejoining the church is probably an attempt to reconcile with his own mortality. But that doesn't mean you have to be victimized by it. NTA. I would keep an eye on your finances. In case he decides to make a large donation, you are being supportive. But that doesn't mean you have to drink the Kool-Aid. There is nothing wrong with any of the things you mentioned, as long as it's in moderation. And from what you described, you are not addicted to any of them. NTA. Your husband is no longer your husband, he is now the ghost of your father-in-law. There's nothing wrong with following a religion. Forcing your spouse into your religious restrictions, and then not even following the same restrictions, is not okay. You are NTA. And you may want to reevaluate your marriage with a therapist. NTA. And this will be super unhelpful, but I think you should start your own religion called the stress relief religion of pot smoking, game playing, and healthy appreciation for sex religion. And then tell him he's infringing on your religious sensibilities. NTA. You are already being very supportive of him with the measures you are taking. But he is trying to control you, your habits, your beliefs, who you can get support from. Not a secular counselor. Your whole life. Please do not give in. This could quickly turn abusive. You're being empathetic and supportive. You are NTA for not letting him control your whole life. If he won't respect your boundaries, then you won't be able to be there for him to support him through his grieving. I'm so sorry you're in this situation because it's really hard. If he won't start listening to you, I really think you will need to consider separation. At least until he can start respecting you again. NTA. He has to know that he's seriously risking his marriage. Right? It sounds like you're hoping this is just a phase and he'll get through his daddy issues, or whatever, and let you have your vibrator back at some point. But it would be prudent to seek legal advice right now in case that doesn't pan out and he permanently bans you from experiencing pleasure.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.